And Zoe has a prior commitment, so Jamaica will be handling, trying to keep us all under control tonight.
I'm sure she can do it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
But would you have to get up last night?
Mayor,
Yes, I do.
Mayor,
Are you good? Yes.
it's 6:30.
It is 6:30.
I have a few preliminary matters. This is Jamaica McNeil, Deputy City Clerk. The meeting is being held with a quorum of City of Westlake Council physically in attendance at the Westlake Council Chambers, 4005 Seminole Pratt Whitney Road. Councilman Patrick Paul, Vice Mayor John Paul O'Connor, Mayor Roger Manning are present physically. Councilwoman Katrina Long Robinson and Councilwoman Kara Crump are attending via communication media technology. City Manager Kenneth Castle and Deputy City Clerk Jamaica McNeil are present physically in attendance. Allow me to confirm council attending via communications technology. Councilwoman Katrina Long Robinson, are you able to hear and speak?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kara Crump, are you able to hear and speak?
Yes.
Public comments may be accepted prior to the meeting utilizing the electronic comment card available on the city's website. Public comments are permitted at the appropriate time during the meeting. The mayor will call for such during public comment, and you may participate at this time utilizing the system's virtual hand feature and waiting to be acknowledged if you wish to comment. Please note this meeting is being recorded, both voice and video. And remember, your mic may be live. I will mute any microphones that carry any feedback or interruptions. If you are a caller that has been muted, you may unmute yourself by pressing *6. Any person in the virtual meeting causing a disruption or being inappropriate will be removed from the meeting. If I may also remind those physically in attendance, please utilize microphones so that the virtual audience and a clear recording of the meeting is produced. Thank you. Mayor Manning?
Thank you. Evening. Call to order the City of Westlake Emergency City Council meeting Thursday, April 15th, 2026, 6:32 p.m. Call please.
Roll call. Councilwoman Katrina Long Robinson,
Here.
Councilwoman Kara Crump,
Here.
Councilman Patrick Paul,
Here.
Vice Mayor John Paul O'Connor,
Present.
Mayor Roger Manning.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. You stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
To the flag of the United States
and
and to the republic for which it stands,
under God,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, the additions, deletions, and modifications to the agenda part should be pretty simple. I don't think we're going to change anything. Have a motion? Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Paul to approve the agenda, second by Vice Mayor O'Connor. Roll call. Councilwoman Long Robinson,
Yes.
Councilwoman Crump,
Yes.
Councilman Paul,
Yes.
Vice Mayor O'Connor,
Yes.
Mayor Manning.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. I'll turn the, and go over to the City Manager, Campbell.
Yes, Mayor and Council, we're here tonight to, yes. Oh, you want to check public comments first?
They should.
I don't think we have any, but
Yeah, let's do it.
Mayor, I received no public comment cards prior to the meeting. However, I will give the virtual audience a moment to raise their virtual hand or unmute their device, stating their name and address. If you are a caller that has been muted, you may press *6 to speak. Please state your name and address. If you wish to make a comment, raise your virtual hand or unmute your device by pressing *6. State your name and address. Mayor, I see no virtual hands.
Thank you. Mr. Council?
yes, Mr. Mayor and Council, thank you. As is on the agenda, we're here to review and select an interim firm for legal services for the city of Westlake. We have three firms here this evening: Gorham Chernoff Duty, Ezra PA, Ottenot Law, and Brandenburg and Associates. In a typical fashion for this and professional courtesy, what we'll end up doing is give each firm 3 to 5 minutes in the room by themselves with you for presentation, and 5 to 10 minutes of questions and answers from the board. Then the next firm will come in, then the following firm, then all firms will step outside while you all discuss and debate, at which time, when you're finished, we'll bring all firms back in and decide, give directions to the manager as to which firm we're going to use as interim. And we'll be following the order that is set up on the agenda. First up would be Gorham Chernoff Duty and Ezra PA. And if the others would, hate to put you out in the hot sun, but it's not total summer yet, guys.
We're gonna go to our cars.
My car's good.
I'll come outside and wave at y'all.
When we get a bigger city hall, then we can send you into another.
Another room, yeah, exactly.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. If I may.
Yes, please.
Thank you, appreciate it. My name is Jacob Horowitz. I'm a shareholder with the law firm of Gorham Chernoff Duty and Ezra. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening. Thank you for the opportunity. A little bit of background about our firm. We've been in continuous existence since 1976. And so while we have a nice private client base, our primary focus is representing municipalities and other public agencies. Currently serve as the city attorney for 11 cities in Broward and Palm Beach County. I personally serve as the city attorney for the city of Cooper City and Broward. We submitted a proposal both in my name and the name of my law partner, DJ Duty. DJ serves as the city attorney for Oakland Park, Hillsborough Beach, and Sea Ranch Lakes. While the two of us are identified on the proposal, we're a law firm of 15 lawyers. I have 6 other shareholders, or 7 of us that are shareholders of the firm. We have 2 other partners along with 4 associates. Each of us has our own specialty, particularly among our shareholder base. We're all general practitioners when it comes to municipal law, but we each have our specialties to ensure that we can provide our clients with a broad range of legal services without having to go outside for special counsel services on a regular basis. We have labor experts, real estate experts. I personally do all the ethics work in our office, representing clients for the Board Ethics Commission, providing ethics training for our biggest cities and the Palm Beach County biggest cities. We're all required to get 4 hours of training every year under state law and the county ethics code. We've attended some of the Palm Beach County biggest cities trainings over the years. It's very possible. I was one of the presenters. We've done that quite a few times over the years. If we were to be so fortunate to be selected, it would be either myself or DJ who'd be attending your meetings. And again, we have other attorneys who may show up from time to time, depending on the need, the specific issues that may arise.
Jacob, could you speak a little closer to the mic and a little bit louder, please? Yeah.
And I hope the folks who are remote, the other council members can hear me as well.
That's what I'm getting text like,
Okay.
a little clearer, speak up.
Okay, sorry about that. So we really submitted this obviously for the interim legal services. I know you're in a bit of a unique situation in the context of the city, because I was driving around here on my way up, and a lot of open space, a lot of vacant land in your city. You got a lot of development coming, a big bright future on the city ahead of you here. It's really kind of nice to see the expansion of Palm Beach County, the expansion west, and all that's going on. This is certainly an interim opportunity, and whether it's us that's selected or not, irrespective of who would be in the seat, I think they'd be fortunate to play a role in kind of working with you all on the expansion of both the county and particularly the city as you continue to develop and move, move westward and move north. But I'll talk a little bit about me personally. If there's any specific issues you'd like me to touch on, I'm happy to focus on any specific questions you might have. Had an opportunity to review both your charter as well as the interlocal agreement that you have with the Central Improvement District. We've got a pretty good sense as to how both entities interplay. We really are a very hands-on law firm. You'll see we're all very accessible. We know that your needs don't come on a 8 to 5 or a 9 to 5 basis. We work around the clock, so we're always accessible. We're always available. Cell phones, emails. We do caution our public officials to stay away from texts because they create some challenges in the context of public records. So that's kind of a pet peeve of ours a little bit, just knowing that retention becomes an issue. But we certainly communicate with our clients by text from time to time as the need arises. So we're just big on making sure that we're accessible and available to our clients. And we know that you have a lot of unique issues that arise in public life. You never get to take the hat off of a public official when we know that there are things that arise in the weekends and evenings. And we pride ourselves on making sure that we're available so that you can get the answers you need on a relatively short basis. And if there's the need for legal research or additional homework, we take the time to make sure we want to get it correct and right answers to whatever issues may arise on a particular day. Every question, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I thought it was. No. So, again, as I was saying, I don't know what specific issues you might have come up in the next 90 to 120 days, but I can speak as far as just general municipal services. I'm fairly comfortable and confident that any issue that would certainly come up during the next 120 days as needed, it's rare that we come across something we haven't seen. Particularly in the context of land use and developments. We've got a lot of big projects in the hopper. There are things that we could certainly provide and serve, and this is the kind of work we do. This is our bread and butter work. So if we can help you in any way, I know there are some short-term needs. We certainly would welcome the opportunity to do that. I will offer that, I don't know what your thoughts are in the context of having an interim firm apply for or be your permanent city attorney down the road. I don't know what your intentions are on a more permanent basis. I would offer that we're not particularly interested in a permanent job. We're really kind of looking to help you in a short term to the extent that we can. But we're not really interested, and I don't think that we would apply if a more permanent position of solicitation was put out. If we're fortunate enough to get the job and things were working well, and there was an interest in having us stay, we would have to go back and reconsider that. But candidly, it's a little bit of a drive to get here. So I don't have no problem with it. I'm happy to do it. If it was something that we were be asked to consider on a more longer term basis, I think that's something we have to think about. But I can assure you that our offices in Broward and Fort Lauderdale don't close, our phones don't turn off. So in the context of accessibility, I don't think that the distance would be any issue. We do represent a number of clients in Palm Beach County, or to be trying to Point Beach, for instance. So we're showing up in this area quite a bit, represent the Delaware Beach CRA. I'm general counsel to the Greater Boca Raton Beach and Park District, so we have a presence in Palm Beach County as well. I don't think the distance would certainly be prohibited in the context of representation, but again, I did want you to know that it's something in the back of our mind. There's one other issue that I wanted to make you aware of. I don't think it's a negative, but I do think it's worth mentioning. I mentioned earlier that we do have a private client base. We currently have one private client who is looking to purchase a storage facility in Westlake. We're representing the client in a real estate transaction. At some future moment, I suspect that client will be coming before the commission for a land use approval. That'll probably happen sometime later in the year, anticipating October, November, December timeframe. I don't foresee that being a conflict. But again, we're representing this client in the real estate side of the transaction. We're not doing the land use one. So we wouldn't be representing the client in the event that they were coming before the commission council for any particular land use approval, site plans, plats, variances, et cetera, as the case may be. But I did want you to be aware we do have a private client that is currently acquiring some space in West Park, Westlake Commercial Development. So those are my preliminary comments. If there's any specific questions I can answer about myself or our law firm, happy to try.
First, I'd like to thank you for coming forward for the information about being involved with a real estate transaction. That's probably not an issue, but
Well, that was intention.
But it's a good idea to mention that.
Sure.
As far as reporting your hours involved, How do you do that, and how often? Could you give us an update on your hourly time spent?
So our standard practice, we submit monthly invoices. We track all of our time. We bill by 6/10 of an hour. So that's pretty standard in a legal profession. We submit our invoices usually within the first 3 or 4 days of the month. We're detailed in our time entries, but we're also very mindful that our entries are public records. We're I guess mindful is probably in the context of how we write those entries. Particularly when we're dealing with our commissioners, we and personally don't, we don't put individuals' names in our time entries. We're just sensitive to some of the potential concerns and challenges that could create. I don't believe that now the city's involved in any significant litigation, and I don't know that we would be involved in any significant litigation. But when we write time on litigation matters, we're particularly sensitive because there are work product privileges and other exceptions that are from state law that come into play in that context. But from an invoicing standpoint, you would see our invoices monthly, and if there were any questions about any invoices, again, we're all very hands-on, so we'd certainly be willing to talk or discuss any issue or any entry that you saw in the invoice of legal services you had a question about.
Would it be possible to push that information on a weekly basis?
It probably would. Yeah, I don't want to speak for our bookkeeping folks, but I don't think that would be an issue. Probably could run like an interim on a weekly basis.
Yeah, just to have an update as to what gives us an idea of how much time is being spent working on the legal issues of the city.
We could, yeah.
And as you can imagine, probably is that with the growth going on, there's a lot of resolutions and ordinances and stuff that have to be done, and plat reviews and so on.
Yeah, and just to that point, we're also very sensitive when it comes to billing, knowing that representing multiple public clients. There are a lot of issues that may be pertinent to you that are also pertinent to every other municipality in the state of Florida. For instance, what's going on in the legislature right now. And we're paying attention to those issues for all of our public clients. We may spend some time reviewing pending legislation, examining the impacts on how we're affecting particular municipalities. We wouldn't bill each individual client for all of the time spent. We would divide that time up, just provide an economy of scale to our public clients. We're certainly mindful of the fact that our bills are paid with taxpayer dollars. We're cognizant that it matters to our public officials. So we just try to be mindful, particularly in the context of billing, just to make sure that we're respectful and aware of all those issues.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask a couple of quick questions. I'm sorry, it's kind of breaking up, so I'm hoping you guys haven't said this already, but I just wanted to know, is the proposed hourly rate $300? And how are we going to determine who is going to be, whether that be a partner, it looks like shareholder or partners of the firm, because I see it varies here.
Sure. Yeah. And thank you, Councilwoman. So we have proposed a $300 hourly rate for shareholders and partners, $250 hourly rate for associates. That's consistent with some of our other public clients in Palm Beach County. When it comes to our billing, for every time entry that we put into a bill, it'll identify the attorney who spent the time. Again, on a client like this, it would primarily be myself, DJ, one of our other, one of our other 2 or 3 other individuals. I think may be writing time to be the file. Depending on the nature of the work being served, we do have some associates that we might plug in to certain opportunities. Again, I know you have some advisory boards. I don't know if you have counsel attend each of your advisory board meetings. Some cities have their city attorney or their city attorney's office attend all of those meetings, others do not. So I don't know what the expectation will be in that context. So there may be some opportunities for us to have associates attend some of those meetings. We certainly do, and they're all very capable and competent attorneys. But each entry would show the attorney that performed the work that was performed, and the amount of time spent. Is that
Okay.
question?
Yes, thank you.
I have 2 questions. The first one is really for council, for the city manager. Are we only reviewing law firms for the short term?
Yes.
Or maybe with the goal that they
Has-
would stay for the long run?
Well, as Jacob put forth, their primary interest is to help us get over the short term. That's him.
Biggest big point,
And others that I've talked to. One of the others I know is interested in short term only. The other could be short term or long term. And again, it depends on their feelings and stuff as well. But this is not for anticipating whoever we choose now as a potential long term. It's more, who do we believe is going to help us through the short term the best, be able to come up and keep us running at the speed we're running without any delays.
And my next question is, how short is the short term? What is the expected?
Somewhere between 90 and 120 days, I believe we can get the RFQ out the door, get other firms in here for long term and get them before you and interviewed and selected within that time frame. Your charter states that within 90 days of the vacancy, you have to start the selection process. Because of how fast we're moving, we really can't afford that long delay in between. We need to get whoever is going to be here long term on as soon as possible. And I believe the firms understand that their goal is to really help us to get that done as soon as possible to keep moving forward so we don't miss a beat. Because I have we have 4 or 5 bonds. I got 4, 5, 6 to reduce. I've got plats coming. I've got all kinds of LDRs that we got to finish and other agreements that we have to finish and stuff like that. And we just don't have time to slow down and we have to be effective and prudent, but we can't be slow in looking at what we got to do.
Okay, well, I apologize to you.
That's okay.
for-
No, it's good.
Maybe should have asked that earlier, but, so you fall in the $300 rate then, because being a partner. In average, what does it sum up per month? Can,
It really depends on the volume of the work.
based on what you just heard.
And not knowing the timing of all those items that Mr. Castle just mentioned, there could be a steady flow of work. I mean, you all candidly sound like you need some legal assistance. There's going to be some applications that are coming down the pipe. There's a number of petitions maybe filed for some development approvals. We take the time to review all of those things. We like to think of ourselves as pretty efficient. We're certainly mindful of the billing. I'll offer this, if the $300 an hour rate is prohibitive, where that was going to be a determining factor, I think that's something that we'd be willing to discuss. Off of that. I don't know that I can give you a firm number on what the actual monthly invoices would look like. I don't want to hold me to it. Just not knowing the volume of the work, I don't want to put myself in a box. But yes, and say somewhere in the 10 to 15,000 range. But again, I really, that's a guess without knowing anything about the volume of work that would be coming in. But that's probably on the high end. I'd rather, under promise and over deliver.
No,
So,
fair enough.
Of course, my concern is it's gonna take a while to get up to speed too. There's things already in the works that haven't been completed, I believe. Is that correct?
That is correct. And I have a couple questions as well for all of the firms to see how
Yeah.
they handle certain things, but
Right.
believe with the firms that we have before us, as Jacob mentioned, they haven't really not seen what we have. So they're very familiar with what's coming out. So the review time and they're coming up to speed should not be that difficult, shall we say. And one of my questions for you, Jacob, is how do you see your firm's role in like if we're modifying an ordinance or writing an LDR, are you involved in the actual crafting or do you have the technical staff craft it and you review for legal sufficiency? I'm trying to understand that kind of a dynamics.
best answer I can offer is it depends on what the city would prefer. Because no two cities handle that the same. We work with a number of municipalities where we write every ordinance and all of the language, all of the actual text amendment, the text language that's incorporated into the code. There are other cities that we work with where, depending on the ordinance, it could be the planning staff or the city engineer writes the code language. We would integrate the actual code changes into the ordinance. But of course, it would take less time to do the latter as opposed to draft the actual language for a particular text amendment. So whatever the city's preference would be, we accommodate both models in our office, and we really would work with the city and adjust to whatever fit for you would work for us as well. Again, we representing multiple cities. You know, no two cities operate the same way, and if you ask any one of our municipal clients, they would probably have the sense they're the only client we have. And we really try to make sure that each client has that personal feel, that personal touch, and we really cater to whatever they would prefer, as opposed to have the client mold our model. So we're flexible enough to accommodate them.
For that question, Mr. Castle,
Hmm.
how have we currently been doing?
Currently, the prior city attorney was under the format that she had to draft all of the language. I've worked in both instances before, and as Jacob mentioned, if you're paying an outside consultant on the hour, it's more efficient and effective to have staff draft as close to what they're looking for, and then have legal look at it to say, is it sufficient, and does this really say what you want? Because ultimately, staff is the one that's administering it on a day-to-day basis. If they have language they really don't understand, it's more difficult for them to administer. If they've written it, they've got, shall we say, skin in the game, et cetera. They know what they're trying to accomplish. If legal then comes by and says, yes, we're good to go with that, then it works. Or legal may come in and say, you know what, you need to change this word and this word because those two will get you in trouble, which you modify it and you keep going, but it cuts down your overall hourly rates to an attorney firm.
Assuming that any change in language in which we would want clarification, but don't understand something. In the past, I've just called the attorney, and she would explain it. In your case, in this firm's case, I guess that is added on to the bill.
Well, let me say it this way, and you raise a good point, Kevin. This goes back to what I was discussing earlier. I wouldn't want any public official, elected official we work with to not feel like they can pick up the phone and call us. And you will never see us in any one of our bills nickel and dime a client. If somebody were to call us and we had a 5 or 10 minute call explaining the verbiage of a particular ordinance, more likely than not, you would never see that call on the bill. It's not worth the aggravation for us and for the client. I wouldn't want a public official to feel like they couldn't pick up the phone and call us for financial reasons. And again, it's just not the way that we operate. We're certainly mindful of your needs, the city's needs, and our ability. So I think that's something that we do consider. I'd rather that any client of ours, any official we work with, pick up the phone and call us. It's just it'll save everybody time, whether it's a public meeting. We'd rather you understand and be equipped to address the issues you need to address. That takes a phone call to have that explanation. It's more important to us to have that phone call with you and not have you feel like every minute we spend on the phone, the clock is ticking. And I'd also just offer this, and it's a related note. We have a practice of taking direction from the majority of the commission. We don't work for any one member of the commission, but if a commissioner, for instance, wanted to bring a resolution to the commission for their colleagues to consider, from our perspective, and our practice would be, rather than, we wouldn't draft the resolution or draft the ordinance at one commission member's direction. We would ask that it may be put on the agenda for discussion purposes. And if a majority of the commission were to provide direction to us, then we would take the time to draft that resolution or draft that ordinance. But just being mindful of the legal time spent and the cost of the city, we wouldn't take direction from any one member of the commission, knowing that we work for the collegial body. It's a little different with staff, because obviously you're professional staff. They have work to do. There are text amendments that need to go into the city's land development code, and there are things that, they're doing that require legal services. We don't want your staff to feel like they can't pick up the phone and call us. We don't want your staff to feel like their names are going to show up with legal bills. We've been doing this a long time. We've got a pretty good sense as to how to interrelate both with the elected officials, the commission members, and the staff, just to make sure there's a mutual understanding, a mutual respect, and we're not looking to take advantage of any one council member or the city. And it's just not who we are, not how we operate.
I just have two broad questions. You mentioned the drive.
Yeah.
When do you start billing?
That's a good question, and we talked about that. We talked about that internally as we were debating whether or not we even want to consider right up here tonight. There are some clients that we bill portal to portal. I understand in a situation that's probably not the best option for the city or for us. If the drive and travel would be an issue, we're prepared to bill half time for the travel. And then again, we don't like to waste our time. So if there's work that can be done, whether it's returning phone calls or just taking advantage of that drive time, which I spent 45 minutes on the phone on my way up here, just dealing with some of the other public issues that we're dealing with. I mean, that's time that I wouldn't double bill. So if I'm billing another client for the time I'm spending in the car, I'm not going to be billing the city the same time. That's just, from that perspective, that's just not what we do.
Excellent. My only other question would be, you mentioned you read through the charter and the interlocal. Anything jump out at you? Anything I think you tilt your head in those documents?
It's there was nothing that was so far out of left field that I really scratched my head and say, wow, this is unique. It's interesting that the district will merge with the city either in 30 years or unless you all decide. At which point the city council becomes the district's board. We have some other client relationships that have interrelationships with districts like that. It's unique, but it's certainly not unheard of. And working with the district obviously is a critical part of how you all operate. They handle the infrastructure essentially, and then there was the coordination when it comes to development of parks and those kinds of things. So it really, there was nothing that struck me as odd or unusual, but it will require a unique level of coordination with another agency. I mean, there would be a dependent district as opposed to an independent district, which does change the texture a little bit. But nothing, again, nothing I found troubling, but it's unique because a lot of cities, most cities don't have that type of relationship with a different corporate entity. But as far as concerning or troubling, again, nothing I saw in there was insurmountable or a problem that could be addressed.
Any other questions?
I have one more question. Interim or ongoing city attorney works for the city council. However, can you describe your understanding of the working relationship with a city manager under the council manager form of government?
So visually, if you visualize the organizational chart, the citizens and residents, top of the chart, right? You have your city council, and under your charter, you only have two charter officers. You have your city attorney, and you have your city manager. In some cities, the city clerk is a charter officer. Some cities, the finance director is a charter officer. You again have the two. So beneath the city council, you have your city attorney, you have your city manager, and there's a dotted line between the manager and the attorney. Be a solid line between the commission and the attorney. We would work for the council, and we have a dotted line relationship to the city manager. In our experience, and in all of our cities are well, I should say all, we represent two cities that have strong mayor and council government. But most of our cities are manager, council, forms of government. And we have very collegial, professional working relationships with our city managers. Look, your city managers are the ones that fund the day-to-day. They're the ones that are going to be needing most of the legal services. If it's incumbent upon the manager to feel like they can phone and call city attorney, and vice versa. And we work hand in hand with our managers. In my experience, if either the manager and the city attorney can't work together or don't get along, usually one of them goes. That's just the way it works in most municipalities. And fortunately, we've had countless city managers that we've been able to work very, very well with. And if it was Mr. Castle, I don't have any doubt or question that that relationship would continue, that type of relationship would continue. But I don't know if that answers your question, Ken, but.
Yes.
Yeah, but again, it's more, I mean, while we would obviously represent the council, more of the day-to-day would probably be with the manager who's handling the operations.
I don't have any more.
Any other questions? Have you guys ever worked together in the past in any other cities?
And not in the other cities, I do think that Mr. Council and his firm are the administrators for one of the public districts, the water control districts that we represent.
Got it.
That covers everything.
Thank you, Jacob.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Would you like me to call in?
Yeah, if you
next?
flag in,
I'm not.
Pamela,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you again.
It's a pleasure.
Thanks. Pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure. You shortly.
Microphones be asked, I have some questions.
Oh, it should be, yeah, basically the same. He's got his, I got some of mine down on cheat sheet too, so.
So can I assume that none of these are interested for the long haul?
Maybe.
He said that perhaps.
Yeah.
Depending on how our relationship.
Right.
But the RFQ process means it goes out, right?
Correct.
Like
RF
Legally and.
RFQ,
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
RFQ,
we'll get bids from all kinds of interested parties.
Correct.
Right? That's the way I like this.
and before we adjourn tonight, I'd like to explain to all of you some other things that I'm thinking about on that process so we can get that started as soon as possible as well.
Good evening.
Hello, good evening, Pamela. Yes, ma'am.
please. And if you'd like to take your mask off, you can.
Okay, I think I
It's a
will.
personal choice.
Yes.
I'll see how it goes, but it's
Yeah.
very difficult.
Yeah.
Everybody else in here. Well, good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Pamela Ryan, and I'm a partner with the Knox Law Firm. Hans Knox is not here, but he's on the phone as support, and if there are any questions that you have that I may not be able to answer. So first of all, I want to thank you for giving us an opportunity to submit our letter of interest and be a part of this process. I know it happened very quickly, and we feel very pleased and excited about being here and offering our legal services. Knot Law is a boutique law firm that concentrates, focuses, and specializes in local government law. We are a new firm, but I like to say we're new in structure, but old in experience. With all of our attorneys, we have over a half century of legal experience in the municipal arena alone. We do other things, but in this area, 50 years of experience. And we, in our very short time, we have been able to offer our services on an interim basis to the city of North Miami Beach and the city of Tamarack. And we can offer those same services to Westlake. We have been able to come in and assist them with the hiring a new city manager. We have assisted with litigation. We have some zoning litigation going on right now in the city of Tamarack that we jumped in and handled for them right away. Contracts, procurement, we've done it all. We're there, we try to be in our locations almost daily. We can offer that to the city of Westlake as well. With Zoom and Teams and Skype and all these other things, it's made it a lot easier to be in different places, but we do offer personal service. We've done that with them, and we will do that with you as well. So with that, that's just an overview. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer all of them. And again, Mr. Otnott is on the line if you need it.
Thank you. Mr. Castle, what you said this time?
Put me on the spot, Mayor. You're just trying to see if I'm still awake. Okay. Can you give us know I sent all the firms the charter and the interlocal agreement with Seminole Improvement District. Can you kind of explain and then describe your understanding of the relationship and how that should be working between the two and what your understanding of that is?
Well, I did read both of them. I thought that, number one, your structure is very unique. When I talked to you for a few minutes, I said that to you. It's a very unique structure. In all of my years, I have not seen this type of structure. It's more akin to a CDD and a city. And that's what I read with the city, you guys call it SID city, and the city of Westlake. Because it was created first, I understand that the relationship is very different, and there are some things that traditionally cities have done in the past that this organization, which is completely different, I understand that there's a transition period that will last, I believe, almost 30 years. I don't remember, I read through it. It's gonna cost money for me to really understand it, but yeah, your relationship is very, very unique, and I know that there are some challenges with that, but it seems to be working well for you. And you know, I don't think it's any more difficult to understand than understanding CDDs. It's different from CRAs. I've worked with in my past with CRAs, CDDs. There are all types of districts that exist.
When you throw these acronyms out, can you? I'm not a lawyer.
Oh, community development district. So a CDD is what a lot of developers will create when they're doing large tracts. They're doing, you know, their own developments. And so you create a CDD, which basically takes care of the roads. They're responsible for the infrastructure. And cities have to create those CDDs. You have to, when I say create, they have to give permission for them to be created. And they check on them from time to time. CDDs have to go to the legislature, and they have to submit records. And so that's why I said it's akin to what you've done as well, because the structures are very similar. So it's not, the structure itself is not unique, but the fact that this city was created based on that is very unique and very interesting, and seems to be working well for you.
More? Okay. Okay. Another one. Interim city attorney or city attorney works for the council because it's a charter position.
Sure.
Can you describe your understanding of the working relationship between the attorney and the city manager and how that should flow back and forth and stuff like that?
Oh, wow. Well, you know, in my 25 years of local government law, I've had to work with many city managers, and it's very important that the city attorney and the city manager work well. Otherwise, you can't work well because we both report to the city council. I'm not going to say that one is over the other. They coexist, but policies come down from the council to the city manager, and the city attorney helps the city manager
Craft and enforce it.
Absolutely. If you tell me you need something crafted, a policy, an ordinance, it's my job to do that. And that's exactly what we do.
Let's talk about billing.
Yes.
Your hourly rate is,
The hourly rate that I presented is $250, and because everything is a public record, what we have done in the past is whatever the previous firm or attorney asked for in the past, we just did the same amount because we've been doing interim work. Your situation is unique because although you had a firm through an individual, there wasn't an hourly rate. So our hourly rate as written is $250. Of course, everything is negotiable, but we thought that would be close in line with what your budget suggests you're spending at this point.
how would you report your billing? hour billing.
Right, we do hourly, it's billable hours, it's the way you want it. In North Miami Beach, we do a set amount. That is the arrangement that they had with their previous council. They just do a lump sum every month. And unless it's some extra, litigation that we're working on, that is a set fee. We put in the hours, we keep track still, but we submit an invoice. With the city of Tamarack and with other clients, we do billing. We don't block bill, just, individual billing. And the city manager can review it, you can review it, the public can review it. Well, the public can't review the specific invoices if it's related to litigation, but they can otherwise. So, whatever structure you prefer, we're certainly able to accommodate.
Do you bill an entire hour? Do you bill a half hour? Do you bill 1/6 of
It's,
an
oh,
hour?
I'm sorry, it's 0.1. So if you call me and we talk for 5 minutes, that's 0.1. And then it's multiplied by I'm not very good at math. But 0.1 and $2.50 an hour would be $25, I think. So it's on a point. And usually that's how attorneys bill,
So,
6-minute increments.
so I guess you gotta say that more or less every phone call that any one of us would make to clarify something, would be good.
Yes, unless we came up with some other type of arrangements. And we could come up with an arrangement, but for the most part, that's usually how it works. Phone calls, that's the difference between having a law firm and having a person in-house. I've done them both. And when you're in-house, you get a certain salary, you get benefits, and you're there all the time, and that's what you get. When you are a law firm, and I think councils and commissions seem to be a little more judicious in their phone calls because they know that you're being charged in 6-minute increments. So if you wanted some type of a hybrid, we could do that as well. But yeah, 0.1.
So how would you go about wise without it costing a lot of money to elaborate on changes in the land development or whatever? I mean, none of us is a lawyer, and sometimes things take a little clarification.
Sure.
And as we've had divisions between the manager and the attorney, and to me, it was always important to know one side or the other, so I can make up my own mind.
Well, and that's the beauty of this interim position for you. You haven't really had the luxury of seeing the other side. You've paid a certain amount for an attorney to do work. You don't really know how much you're spending per month because nobody's ever actually, did you get a breakdown every month of the billing?
No, we did not. It was a lump sum.
It was a lump sum, and that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine and reasonable to do it that way. On the other hand, it's difficult to know what your needs are, how much time you're spending on a project. When I worked at my previous law firm, I worked for the city of Lake Worth Beach. And the billing there was so elaborate. I personally, on the files that I worked on, I had 6 or 7 different divisions. I had a breakdown for planning and zoning, a breakdown for historic preservation, a breakdown for code enforcement, a breakdown for general matters, a breakdown for risk management and outside counsel. Maybe that's 5. Those were my 5. And so I submitted billing for each one of those areas. And if the city manager, when in reviewing the bills, thought that I was spending too much time in one area, we would have a conversation with the department head and talk about how to reduce those expenditures. You're not going to know where your money is going until you have that process. And I'm not suggesting that is the only process, but in order for you to know whether or not, and you may say, look, we spent $5,000 on this issue, but it was worth it. It was serious. You guys have a lot of land development issues. And it's important that you get the right advice, you get the right direction from your manager. And, you know, sometimes it costs money to get that.
How long of a drive did it take you to get here? This far for you?
It is not far from me, and it wouldn't have been far, except that I had to go east to drop off my son at swim practice and then come back west. I think the drive is about 30 minutes for me.
And when, really what I'm getting at is when do you start billing?
Oh, no, you don't build till you get to the location.
Okay.
No,
This is just an honest question.
okay, sorry, I didn't mean to give you too much information about my son.
No, that's okay. You know, not all the firms are local. Some are hours and hours.
Sure,
So it's just,
sure.
just a question.
It was an excellent question. We do not bill for traffic.
Excellent. Now, also, mentioned you read or skimmed through the interlocal.
Yes.
The charter. Anything besides what you already mentioned about our very unique situation? Anything really strike you as problematic or something that tilt your head a little bit?
You know, it's hard to say when you look at documents on their face. You know, you pass ordinances all the time, and when you actually get into them and you start putting them into practice, that's when the difficulties really start to show themselves. It's not on the face. I read it, I have to be honest with you, I read through it both of them each one time, printed them out, because reading on the computer is not that great. So I printed them out, read them, and it's fascinating, the way it was structured. I wasn't looking for problems. I'm sure there are some problems. Your charter is fine. But I didn't review it. If I had known I needed to do that, I would have done an analysis and I would have presented you with a free analysis. But I did not do that. But I'm sure there are some issues because it's so novel, because it's new, because you're breaking ground, you are going to have issues. But that can't scare you off from doing your job. You're going to have issues. Those without saying.
And finally, have you and Mr. Caswell ever worked with each other before?
We've never worked it. We've never, no.
I think you said it one night.
I did, and, I did. So, full disclosure, I know Pam Booker. First of all, I know almost everybody in this area of law. It's a small community. And, but I've known her for many years. And when she had to go on vacation once, I sat for my firm. I sat here, and I think that you were here, Mayor.
Yes, I was.
And, Councilperson Long was here as well. So we did have an opportunity to meet that night. I also met with the developers, attorneys, 5 different developers who I've known for many, many years. We worked together on projects throughout the years. So yes, we
How did that come to be? Our former city attorney just called you and said, I'm going on vacation, I'm gonna be out, I need you to sit in for me?
No,
How does that actually work?
I don't recall the specifics of it, but I was with my new law firm, and it was a very last minute thing.
That's different firm?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Trosivia Donlin, Gatto and Andy Say was the name of the firm. It's changed names, and I just left there a couple of months ago.
Oh, wow.
So she knew both me and the man she partnered in Trosivia. She had an emergency, and she called and asked if I would be available to sit at that meeting, which I did. And so I already knew a little bit about what was going on. I think you had a zoning issue on the agenda that night.
I wasn't here, so I have no idea.
Right. Why am I looking at you?
She asked. We probably did have.
Yes, yes, and you did have a zoning issue, and I was here for that.
Okay. Thank you. I think that wraps up my questions.
Would you be the primary go-to person?
Absolutely, yes. I'm not that, I don't want Hans to think that I threw one of the bus. Mr. Arnott, he hates when I call him that. Hans is, litigator, planning and zoning, land use, Drew has done lots of developments, so, but I'm closer, 30-minute drive as opposed to an hour drive. But it's not a problem. We drive all the time. But yes, I would be the primary person dealing with your issues, but he is on hand.
Do we have any questions from Councilwoman Crump or Councilwoman Long Robinson?
I just would like Ms. Ryan to talk about her experience. I noticed you wrote a detailed memo, which is really impressive. But can you talk to us about your experience with land use matters, especially because we are developing a lot in Westlake? So can you just kind of give us a brief synopsis of your experience with land use development?
Sure. I'll start with the more recent experience, because I have represented planning and zoning boards, preservation boards, which you all would not have because preservation boards are all about things being really old and you are really new. I have represented city councils and city commissions at the hearings, on appeals. I have, I mentioned Bob Differender, we have worked on projects together. Just, I don't even know how to quantify it, but it ranges in every aspect. I don't believe there's any aspect of land use, planning and zoning, charter amendments, having to do with them that I have not.
No, it's something with the mic system.
That I have not personally dealt with. Most recently in the city of Lake Worth Beach, there has been considerable litigation concerning some planning decisions that the boards have made that have been on appeal. I represented the planning and zoning board. I represented even though we have a different attorney who sits as the city attorney, anytime there was a land use issue, I would come and sit at that meeting as well. And we did not charge you for both attorneys being there. So we kind of got double the work, which we were happy to do. It's important to take care of the client. But I've represented them at both of the hearings. I've represented them on the appeals. I've worked with developers. I've done development agreements. Councilperson Long, anything, it's math. I've done almost everything that you could possibly think of and enjoy it. I mean, you have to enjoy it to be in this area of the law for as long as I have. Does that answer your question? Or do you want?
It did. Thank you. No, you were fine. Thank you.
Yeah, and I wanted to just ask her the same exact question about experience, but so you answered my question as well. Did I read you were the city attorney for Riviera Beach for 16 years?
I was city attorney for 16 years. I was there for 20 years and retired and decided I have too many children. And so I kept working and then I went into private practice. So that's why I say I've seen it on both sides. And offering the interim services is fun. And we get in, we take care of the issues that you want without you having to worry about us trying to stay. The manager mentioned that he wants someone to help with the RFP process. I've done that. I've done all kinds of RFPs, but would be on hand to assist him with that, as I'm not interested in the permanent position. And I think that's good for you to know as well, because sometimes it takes a lot of pressure off to know that.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any further questions?
I don't have any further questions. Oh, I actually do. How do you see your role in like updating or drafting ordinances or completing LDRs? Do you prefer to draft them all yourself, the whole thing, or all the wording, or do you have staff draft it and you review it? I'm trying to understand that dynamic.
It depends on the client. Some clients like for their staff, like Lake Worth Beach. They had a very large staff, and they'd like for the staff to draft. And then I would review, make changes, we would go back and forth. It kept the billing down, and then we presented. If you don't have that staff, I am, along with Hans, we are very, very knowledgeable in drafting LDRs, have done so many times, and I have no problem doing it at all. That's not an issue.
Thank you.
I'm here for you.
I don't have any more questions.
Thank you again for the opportunity. It has been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you'll wave at the other ones.
Yes,
Thank you.
it's kind enough to do it for me.
Everybody's sociable.
Yes.
That's good.
Short time.
So what is it saying? Short term to be just doing short term.
Still billable hours.
Well, I understand that part.
I mean,
It's,
I understand it. It's, they don't want to be married to the project.
Some cases.
Get in, make their money, and
and there's firms, and there's a good place for firms that specialize in the troubleshooting aspect, because they come in, they're not, as you say, married to, tied to, wrapped into the middle of it. They can come in and say what really needs to be said, because they're not having to stay on the thing. They can say, look, you got to do this, this, and this, and we're doing this, this, and this. Here's your results, and go for it.
How are we gonna go about finding somebody full
that's the.
That's the next section. That's the next phase. That's going to take a lot more finesse, and it's a lot more involved.
It's like an open bidding process where it's sent out, tell the world we're interested, we start getting interested parties.
Make sure everybody uses the mic.
Oh,
try the mic. Hello.
Thank you for staying.
Oh, thank you for having. Can I take my mask?
Yes.
Yes, you may.
Yes, you may.
I'm fully inoculated, at least 2 weeks ago, so I should be safe.
Good. Well, I'm inoculated also.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you, Mayor. My name is Gary Brandenburg, and I'm the owner of Brandenburg and Associates. And I'm pleased to introduce to you Dylan Brandenburg. Dylan graduated from Stetson Law School and passed the bar this summer after all the delays with COVID, and has joined our firm. And I like to think of it as sort of the old computer on the desk, and that's me. And then bright new shiny computer that's extremely fast, but sometimes needs a little guidance from the old guy. And so that's our firm. Let me give you a little background on myself. I was born.
First of all,
Go ahead.
if he just graduated from Stetson,
Yes.
you got a lot less money in your pocket.
Oh, believe me, I need this job bad. Oh, absolutely. So I grew up in Detroit, and I did actually work in the automobile factories to work my way through school. I graduated from the University of Detroit Law School, downtown Detroit, right on the Detroit River. And when I graduated, I decided I'm not going to stay in Michigan. I want to go somewhere where the weather's a little nicer. And the choices were Las Vegas, Nevada, or Palm Beach, Florida. And I had a rich relative in Las Vegas. I decided to come to Palm Beach County, Florida. Got my first job as an assistant county attorney in charge of animal regulation. It paid about $13,000 a year, and I was glad for every penny of it. So I worked in the county, worked my way up for a while. Had an opportunity to become the county attorney in Indian River County, Vero Beach. Went up to Vero Beach. I was their county attorney, first in-house county attorney in Vero Beach for 5 years. And then my friends in Palm Beach County called me up and said, hey, there might be an opportunity down here. Why don't you toss your hat in the game and see if see if you have the votes for county attorney. So I was hired as the Palm Beach County attorney. And I stayed there for several years. It was a great experience. It's the intersection of the law and politics, which I've always found fascinating, as I'm sure you do, which is why you're sitting where you are today. So after a while there, I had a great opportunity with a wonderful law firm in downtown West Palm Beach. I'm sure you've heard of it, Gunster Yoakley. Went to Gunster Yoakley and I had a good time there. Great law firm. Then I had another opportunity. A statewide law firm called Carlton Fields was looking for someone to set up a West Palm Beach office. I helped them set up their West Palm Beach office, and I managed that office and was on their board and so forth for about 12 years. At the end of that experience, I decided, well, I know a few people now. I'm going to go out on my own and see if I can make a law firm work on my own. And I've been on my own ever since until Dylan has joined me. So over that period of time, I've worked for counties. I've worked for developers who are working with the county. I've worked for large law firms. I've managed large law firms, and I've managed my own little law firm for a long time now. I've had the opportunity to work for municipalities, counties. I've been on both sides. My specialty is governmental law. So I either represent the government or I represent folks that have some sort of dealing with government. Either they have some contracts going on or some other type of contact with the government, or they might even have trouble with government, such as code enforcement, contract issues, so forth. That's been my specialty. I've been doing it for 42 years now. And I have to say that it's the happiest time of my life right now to be able to work with my son and to be here tonight and talk to you about what you need. And if we can possibly supply what you need, we would love the opportunity to do it.
Thank you.
Yep.
So, give it to, you want to give it to him again? I thought we did. Start with you this
Yeah,
time.
sure, why not? Billing, I guess we'll start with billing. What's the hourly rate?
Well, we propose $250 an hour.
Okay.
But we understand that you may need some other type of arrangement, such as a flat fee for a certain amount of work, a flat fee per month. And we're willing to talk to you about what best fits with you and your budget. I believe that, a reasonable budget for what I know about Westlake right now should be, I think, somewhere around maybe $150,000 a year. And I think that should cover it.
What increments do you billing? Is it 15-minute, 10-minute, 5-minute?
It's usually a 0.2. And the reason for that is that, well, you only spend a couple of minutes on the phone with somebody. But the fact of the matter is you have to change your thought process. You have to be diverted. You have to take the call. And then you have to follow up with it. So it's normally 0.2 is the minimum amount.
For our council meetings, would it be you present?
Yes,
Would it be your son?
it would be me.
How long did it take you to get here today?
Took me a little over 45 minutes.
And when do you start billing?
So when we
Go to the portal, or when you walk
no,
in the
we
door?
wouldn't go in to drop that.
Got all the good questions. So do you have an opportunity to read through our city charter and our interlocal agreement?
I did.
Anything?
I didn't study it,
Fair enough.
but I did read
On
through
your
it.
quick read through, anything really strike you as odd or interesting or intriguing or?
Well, I thought it was very interesting. The entire relationship between the city and SID is very interesting. And the concept that over a 30-year period, perhaps the district is going to slowly get away from things and the city is going to take over more little things to me is just a fascinating approach. I've been watching the formation of the city and everything that's gone along with it. And I just think it's a wonderful opportunity. And I really think that you have the opportunity to do things right up front, get them done right. It'll last for years and years. And I'd like to be a part of that.
So you were already familiar with Westlake? It's been on your radar?
It's been on the radar, yes.
When did you last work with the county?
Oh, I last worked
Palm
with
Beach County?
Palm Beach County. I left Palm Beach County in 1988, but I've been in Palm Beach County working all that time. It's only recently that I've moved up to the Stewart area and moved my office to downtown Stewart.
Gotcha.
So I've been in the thick of things around here for a long time and involved in all the politics with the county and everything else.
In the, I don't want to call it dissension, but, the rough beginnings that Westlake had with the county from, its formation.
Yes.
Were you involved or on any?
I was not on any side of that. I was not involved. I was watching it from a distance and just sort of watching the pieces fall in place.
And then I guess finally, have you and Mr. Castle ever worked together before?
Ken, I don't believe we have. You look very familiar to me. I'm sure we've run into each other before, but we have not worked together now.
Thank you very much. I think that's all my questions.
Okay.
Have you ever worked with Seminole Improvement District?
Have not.
With Seminole Improvement District's council?
Louis Longman, I've known him for years. In fact, one of the attorneys that works there used to work for me at the county attorney's office. But I know most of the attorneys there and have had dealings with them over the years, but not with regard to SID.
Have you ever had any involvement with the developer?
With Minto. Also, I guess over the last 40 years, acquired a knowledge of what I would say are good builders and folks that might be sliding a little bit. And I think Minto is right up there as a good builder. I wouldn't bet on it, but I think, didn't the company come out of Canada originally? I mean, years ago, they had a fellow that worked for them, Greg Unger. And I believe everything I've heard about Minto over that period of time is they have done top-notch work. I believe that John Corbett did a lot of work with Craig Unger for Minto years ago when they were working on other projects here in Palm Beach County. And I have the utmost respect for Mr. Corbett.
Are you meaning to say Carter?
No.
John Carter?
No, Carter, I think, is the management.
Yeah.
Yeah. Corbett was the attorney.
Gotcha.
At Corbett and White was the name of the law firm. Trela White and John Corbett were married. And they provided a lot of the work for Minto years ago.
Got it.
So the lawyers before you, they made it very clear that they are more familiar with the things that are needed here at Westlake. Drafting, whatever, LDRs and whatever all is needed. So that is, in fact, your expertise as well.
Sir, I doubt there's any document here that you would be considering in the city that I haven't drafted, reviewed, and participated in the past. As far as your resolutions, your ordinances, all the different governmental aspects of running a fire service, a police service, your interlocal agreements, your relationship with the county, the MSTUs. I've dealt with all those numerous times over the years for different governmental entities. Is there any particular document or relationship that you have in mind that you'd like me to expound on?
No, it's just everyone before you and all the things that I've done and not done, and
Yeah,
you weren't as detailed, but I have no reason not to believe that you are more than knowledgeable about it.
well, I could go into some of that stuff over the last 40 years, but I doubt the other folks waiting out in the parking lot would want to wait on me.
Probably not. The other thing is that I'm guessing, Junior over here will have the same knowledge. Your son?
Well, he's trying to have the same knowledge. Of course, hey, of course, he says he's a lot more knowledgeable than I am on every possible topic. But the truth of the matter is, he's a new lawyer. He's learning. He's trying to understand the relationships and all the agreements and everything else that has to go in place. Just like I did when I was hired back for $13,000 as the animal regulation attorney in Palm Beach County.
My daughter wants to be a lawyer, so I know. Well,
Yep, yep.
do you have any long-term ambitions, or is this short, strictly for the short term?
Well, when I talked with Ken, he indicated that you're looking for someone to fill in as an interim attorney to get you through this period of time while you're looking towards the future. Of course, I think any one of these lawyers that are here tonight would like you to look at them, and so would we for the future. Okay, I'm 67 years old, so my future might be limited to what? Another 15 years, practicing law? Just kidding. But my son is looking forward to a long future in local government law, and that's one of the areas that he specialized at over at Stetson, as well as trial advocacy. So we would like to fill in for you or the interim, get to know you, get to understand you, let you understand us and our capabilities. And if that were to work out in the long run, that would be great. But we understand that there's no promises in that regard, that the engagement that you're talking about here might be very short. You might be able to do a solicitation and hire the perfect attorneys, in a month or two, and that would be the end of it. We fully recognize that.
What does the rest of the firm look like? Are there paralegals and junior associates?
It's just three of us.
Okay.
Myself, my son, and my paralegal who has worked for me for quite a long time. So we make a good responsive team. I mean, that's our objective. If a client calls, we always call back immediately. It's not like you have to wait a day or two to hear back from your lawyer. You're going to get a call right back. And we're going to be responsive for you. And that's what we do. And we don't take on too much work with other clients, other things, so that we cannot provide that type and level of service to you. So that's what we promise.
Would you be able and willing to help us with the RFQ process?
Oh, yeah.
Is that something that your firm can help with?
Yeah, absolutely. If you need someone to write it for you, we do that. I'm sure Ken has ideas about how he'd like to lay it out and the whole process and everything. And we understand that we work for the commissioners. And what guides this is a majority of the commissioners on any issue. But we also recognize that we have to have a great working relationship with your city manager in order to make it all work. You have to have a good relationship with the city manager, and you have to have a good relationship with the SID. That would be our objective. And, I am not the type of a lawyer that is going to find issues and point out problems that cause friction amongst the council members or council members and the manager, or you and your partners, the SID. That's not going to happen. We're here to facilitate working together of these agencies so that they can best serve the residents out here in Westlake.
It's interesting you said that if you had a different viewpoint
from SID, for example.
I had a different viewpoint from the manager. I don't believe the manager would have a problem with me expressing my viewpoint to the council. And it would just be that, here's another viewpoint. It wouldn't be, I would object to what he's doing or in any way criticize his viewpoint. It would just be approaching it from a different standard. Of course, everything that city manager is going to do and anything that I'm going to recommend to you is going to be legal. I mean, if it wasn't legal, we wouldn't be recommending it at all.
Legally,
For-
in the best interest of the city to do things.
Of course. I agree with that so much. And what's in the best interest of the city, that's in your purview. That when all the facts are given to the commission, then it's your job to decide, I think anyways, what's in the best interest of the city. Not my job to decide that. My job is to tell you what's legal, what are the different approaches, and to let you make the decision with a recommendation from the manager as to which way he thinks you should go.
As a follow-up on, I think where Commissioner Paul was going was, if there's a conflict or an issue that the SID sees one way, the city sees another way, how do you propose finding the solution or coming to a conclusion that works for both?
Well, I think, of course, and as I'm sure you know, the best way is good communication between the city and SID, and good communication with your lawyers and their lawyers. Okay. And trying to work things out in a way that really is in the best interest of the city, so that all the parties can come in and say, we've tossed this around. Here are the things we've looked at. And we think this approach would be acceptable to the city and SID. What do you think, Commission? Of course, it's always your final decision.
Councilwoman Crump or Councilwoman Long Robinson, you have questions?
I don't have any questions.
Sorry. I noticed that this is Councilwoman Long Robinson. I noticed that you have City of Pahokee, City Attorney for Clewiston on your resume. So I noticed you're familiar with District 6 and the land use and things in this area. Can you talk to us about your experience with Pahokee and Clewiston? What happened?
Okay, sure. Well, I'm still the city attorney in Clewiston, and I really enjoy working for that community. It's a great city, great community. I was the city attorney for Pahokee, and I very much enjoyed working with the residents and the city commissioners in Pahokee for a long period of time. I was there for 11 years. And I think Pahokee has a great potential in the future. They're the only city in the entire county, and really the only city on the entire lake that has direct access to the lake. Sooner or later, the city of Pahokee is really going to jump out and really become a great place and environment for everybody to live. Now, I worked there for 11 years. A couple of years ago, it came down to an issue where the city manager had it was the Inspector General for Palm Beach County had some reports that was criticizing the city manager. And we had a difference in viewpoint. I felt that the city commission should see these reports and respond to these reports. The city manager had a different viewpoint on that. And so I exited the city. That's what happened there. I wish I still worked for Pahokee. I think it's a great community, has great potential. Ma'am, did I answer your question?
Yes, you did. Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Castle.
Gary, can you give me some idea of would you view your role in drafting ordinances? Do you believe that you, as the interim attorney or city attorney, have to draft all the ordinances, or do you take ordinances or LDRs that are drafted by staff and then proof them and make sure they're legal? What's your preference, or how do you attach that?
Either way. We'll work with you on either way. If you would like to have the first draft of ordinances and then send them to us for us to review and maybe change a little bit and consult back and forth on it, that's fine. If you want us to do the drafts on our own, that's fine also. You know, the one thing about city government, especially in Palm Beach County, is you usually don't have to reinvent the wheel. There are so many examples of ordinances that you can call upon as a starting point, almost on any topic that comes up. So instead of trying to write an ordinance from scratch, you can always find something to start with. Whether it's the manager who starts it or a consultant, lots of times communities use consultants to come up with ordinances and then send them over for legal review. Yeah, any way you'd like to do it, we'd be happy to do it. We're not set in any particular format that things have to be done in a certain way. We're able to do it in the way that works best for you.
Thank you.
If we would like to do our billing hourly,
Yeah.
how would you do that reporting?
Reporting?
Yes.
So, once a month, you would get a bill and it would have a detailed list of everything we do, be broken down by the time frames down to a minimum of 0.2. I actually do bill 0.1 on occasions. And I find it very useful. I've been doing that forever. In fact, when I was in the county attorney's office, I wanted all the county attorneys to do it too, because it was a good way to keep track of what everybody was doing. And more importantly, it provides you a record of everything you've done for the client on each particular day that you can go back and use as a reference point to find things that you need for that client on that day.
Would it be possible to get that pushed out once a week?
Yeah, I'll see why not. Yeah, sure.
I don't have anything else.
Nothing else?
I'm good.
I think we've got a question.
That's great. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for this opportunity again to meet you and talk with you about this. Would you like me to invite the other folks in, or are you going to deliberate? for a
Council's
while?
going to talk for a
Okay.
few minutes, and then one of us will come out and flag you all in.
Good deal. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you so much.
I think where we go from now, Mr. Mayor, is for all of you to put forth which firm you would rank 1, 2, and 3. You know, discuss how you get to that point, and then Jamaica will, as she did on the school advisory committee and the others, keep track of that so that we know who's ranked how, and then based upon that, you can provide direction.
Councilwoman Robinson, would you like to start?
Councilwoman Robinson, are you still on?
Sorry. I was saying, can you repeat your question? I know you said a point system. I said I was actually finishing up looking at an article about the last attorney who was just speaking. But can you repeat the question? I know you said something about the point system.
Yes, Vice Mayor, I'm sorry.
Previous question.
Hey,
Yeah, I'm no longer vice mayor. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Go back to Councilwoman Robinson. What my point was is that each one of you discuss together or where you would rank, who you would rank first, second, or third. And then based upon each one's first, second, and third, we would correlate in here and then see if you all agreed with that overall ranking, and then go from there based upon your direction.
Sure. I don't really have a lot of comments. I think the conversation was extensive. So my ranking would be firm for number one, firm number two, firm number one, and firm number three for me.
All right, I'm sorry. So that would be, okay, so run that through me again and I'll look at them. Okay, the first.
For me, Otnet Law was number one.
Okay,
Sheroff, number two.
okay,
Brandenburg and Associates, number three.
thank you.
Councilwoman Crum?
I would like Ottenall Law number one, Donald Duty number two, and Brandenburg number three.
Okay.
I go from the bottom up. 1, 2, and 3.
So Brandenburg would be one, ought not two, and duty is three.
Are we talking about how we got to these conclusions at all?
You can if you want.
Okay. So, I did do some research, what I could do, with Googling and whatnot. And I did find, I didn't love, to be completely candid, I don't love any of these choices. Nothing really jumped out at me as credible. But I will say that in terms of ought not law, in her role as city attorney for Riviera Beach, I found tons of stuff that just scared me. There's a case that she took all the way to the Supreme Court and lost, Losman v. Riviera Beach, 11-626. It cost the city millions of dollars. The article headline was U.S. Supreme Court sinks Florida city. And then separate but kind of related, there was a huge sunshine law violation that was sanctioned regarding Rybovich Marina, who I'm very familiar with, full disclosure. And basically they made that, she allowed the city to make a backroom deal to get that approved. And it was a big deal. That article headline was Riviera Beach accused of violating sunshine law and fight over Marina. It's just troubling. Although I loved everything she said in person, that I don't think that can be ignored. So that's something. And I found stuff on everybody, to be completely candid. There was some stuff with one of the partners at the Gore and Cherub duty with their role in Boynton Beach. But I would say, just because the duty and Horowitz, who are here today, I felt he was completely on the ball. And the people that we're getting, I didn't find any kind of scandals or anything of that nature. So I would absolutely rank Gordon and Duty number one on my list. And then I just have a real problem with the size of Brandenburg's firm. I feel like it's almost, I really want a fresh look. I want a fresh experience and bigger firm for less money. So I would actually rank him last and then not two. That, gotta tell you that Riviera Beach stuff scared the crap out of me.
Okay. I did a little bit of my own homework at 1:30 Saturday this morning. I'll tell you that Mr. Horowitz and his firm, being that they have a lot of power there, a lot of attorneys and bringing a lot of advice one way or the other on certain issues, and I'm sure that there's somebody they're going to lean on in each direction they go in, I should say. I would definitely negotiate the cost down and get it down to at least that $250 an hour mark. I would also be committed to doing half time on billing, sorry, travel time, I should say, which would help out in that area, and then maybe we could squeeze a little bit more out of that also. Interim. The thing that I kind of, the thing that I like probably the best about him is his proposal is, first of all, he was committing to only doing the interim cycle and leaving it open for the possibility, but wasn't. He wanted to see how we worked and how he worked and how it worked together to see whether they wanted to move forward. So I would rank him number one also.
Which one is that, Mayor?
That would be
Gorin,
Gorin.
you're up on duty.
I also picked Law for my second choice. And Brandenburg, I'm concerned about the size of the firm also. The time. Gary seems like a very nice guy, and it's too bad his son didn't talk, because I would have liked to have heard something from him. I just don't think it's they can come up to speed fast enough to what we're going to require to get our back on the ground. So that would be mine.
All these things, I mean, I hear Danny's comments, but we are just looking for
An interim.
for what, 2-3 months.
Also, yeah.
I am not quite sure, where a much larger firm equates to more money.
Well, I think we should negotiate that. If we can't get it down, they can't meet us at the published rate that the others are. That makes a difference. Absolutely.
That's what Brandenburg came in. Money didn't seem really.
I mean, either way, we're gonna be significantly less than what we had.
That depends. I mean, I did a little analysis as far as the hourly, which is all right here. Right? Checked it out for the last 5 months. We've spent about 30. If we projected 34,542 per month, which is 5 months, the last 5 months, which projects out to 414,511 for the year if we stayed on the same basis at this time. So that cost the average, if we put in a 40 hour, let's say they put in a 40-hour week between the paralegal and the attorney themselves.
Didn't come.
We'd be at $200 an hour. Based on the $215 an hour, we get an average of 32 hours per week. So we get roughly 10 weeks less a year if it was on a yearly basis. But we're only talking about interim here.
Right.
So it won't be as, it's not as drastic as that.
Well, and the difference is it's not necessarily 40-hour weeks.
Right. It may not be. I just did a quick while I was sitting in the car, because it's been a day of work since 1:30 this morning.
Parker.
Just for instance, Royal Palm Beach, their legal budget's $321,000 a year. So, and I think because we are a new city and we have a lot more coming to the table, between the ordinances, the LDRs, the EO, and the all the other documents that we're having to put together. I would think, and if you can correct me if I'm incorrect, Mr. Castle, there's probably a lot more passing through the legal entity here than there would be through a city that's already existing.
Well, possibly, but also depending on how you do it. In other words, if I remember correctly,
Parker.
Jacob,
Come check us out.
Could you
Jake-
just one moment? We have
Yes.
interruptions. Just one moment.
all the firms seem to be okay with staff drafting the first draft, and saying, hey, here's where we're going, here's what we want. Does this accomplish it? Does it do? And does it do? Which will cut down the quote legal. Yes, it's going through legal, but the amount of time spent in legal can be significantly reduced.
Whatever our staff is our contracted staff,
Mhm.
which means that the staff is then gonna bill us for their time to put this together. It's not gonna be It's not gonna be at $250 an hour, I realize, but if we got both the staff that we're paying and the legal backup, we could conceivably be back at the same amount of money.
But Mr. Mayor, the staff has been heavily involved even in the drafting of it in the past. They've been involved in doing preliminary drafting, being part of it and being in all the meetings of the drafting as well. So we had legal and staff time involved as well as my time. What I'm proposing is potentially we cut down on the legal time because the staff really puts it together. I've already had Nielsa and I'm working on some updates on the charter and other stuff that they've been working on, getting it, shall we say, boiled down to the real nuts and bolts, what we're looking at changing or needing to change. And then we can take that of saying, hey, here's all our proposals, what we need to change to meet the criteria of the next review. Legal, are we sufficient? So that cuts down that time where before we would have legal involved in every piece of it. So I think we can fine tune our dollars with that approach. And I think also by having the hourly time frame, we can see that, again, as Gary pointed out, you're looking at, hey, why are you calling the attorney all the time? Can't you figure this out? You need to, I'm paying you as a professional. You should understand some of this stuff before you go into the attorney. Those kind of things that we can get more control over as well.
Did I not hear Mr. Brandenburg say that they kind of arrived somewhere at the $150,000 mark annually?
He figures based upon what he sees, the work that we would need would be roughly in the $150,000 range.
So the way I figure that, I mean,
It's not
going
the
back to
workload.
larger firms, probably gonna be $100,000 under what everybody else gonna charge.
Don't see that. It's just, it doesn't make sense. This should not be that drastic a.
I think if we look at how to control the number of hours that we actually spend with legal is where we really find our savings, regardless of what firm we have in an interim or what firm we end up in the long term. If we set forth the parameters to control how much dependency there is on the legal, because there's a lot of things that go on that don't really have to have their input. If we pull those back, then we can make that impact that I think Council Vice Mayor O'Connor's looking. I'll figure out how to call you soon. O'Connor's looking for is how to get that under control and how we can look at our budget. Because again, as we continue to go forward, we only got another year and a half or so that we've got that deficit and the growth and stuff that we've really got to start looking at all of our budgets to see, are we doing what we're doing in the most efficient, effective way for budgeting and fiscal responsibility.
The reason why I say I don't think that $150,000 is gonna do it, because that's only 600 hours, $250 an hour. And if you divide that out by 52, so you're only talking about 48, 47 hours a month. I can't even imagine that being enough time, but I could be totally wrong.
You're gonna be pleasantly surprised.
I'd love to be pleasantly surprised.
I don't think we have been running a fully efficient operation thus far.
White cost. I won't dispute that, because you know what, it all comes out in the wash. It always does. After being in business for 40 years myself, I can tell you that time tells a lot of things.
I agree.
You just have to sit back sometimes and watch. see nothing.
But when it comes to the size of the firm, again, we've had one attorney, paralegal, handling the business.
Right.
And whether it was or was not efficient, again, time will tell, but somebody else gonna handle it better. So I don't think that between Mr. Brandenburg and his son and their paralegal, that they're gonna get any less done than the attorney we had. with That one paralegal, I'm just speaking for the size. It's not, I want to push one way, I don't know any of these firms. I'm just looking at what I've heard and trying to put money signs on it and all that. And that to me seems to be physically more responsible than going with these big firms. And plus you have the, I'm sorry, plus you have the advantage of a little more individual, to the city. You have one or two attorneys. If it's a firm, I don't know who all that ends up with. Alternate, I guess there's only two. She says she's the primary access, but not a law firm, but a first law firm. There can be, I don't know how many people involved, and it's something that I'm a little more or less comfortable with. Because different heads, different ideas, different results.
Well, the reason I brought up Royal Palm and the budget is because I'm thinking that we shouldn't be so far out of line with them, I don't think.
But we are, we're almost 20-30%.
No, we should be down. I firmly believe that as we get through a couple more of the LDRs and get that off, we should be down in that below their range overall. I would say that from past experience and stuff, I would expect our legal fees to somewhere be possibly in the range of about 175 to 250 annually on outside legal.
Now we're at
Oh, yeah.
significantly.
Yeah, so that's what that would, based upon what I see as workload and the actual things that are coming through, that's where I would expect us to ultimately be at.
Where do you see the difference between us and Royal Palm Beach? How would you be determined to think that we should be so far under what they're doing?
Only as I spoke to the manager over there, he has them at a lot of meetings and has them drafting everything. And that's where I think you can control some of your costs. So I think we could be under it.
I will say, and have to at least mention it, that, besides for the scary headlines, U.S. Supreme Court, 6 Florida City, where, that costs billions of dollars, and, all the Sunshine Law stuff, I'm super surprised to find out that not actually sat in a meeting, has a relationship with our former city attorney, and the only reason it's bugging me is because I want such a fresh start. I desperately want a brand new, fresh set of eyes, fresh start, objective.
We don't want to forget though that this is an interim position.
Right.
Right. It's got to be what works best for us right now for the next, so let's say 30 to 90 days or something like that time frame. I think that's what we have to keep on in mind.
If you look at the screen behind you, Mr. Mayor, that's kind of where we're at.
I saw it. We're nowhere.
Well, yeah, 2, 2, and a 1. I kind of need you all to come to some. I mean, actually, if you look at.
Actually, if you add it up, Opnot's got it, right? 4, 6, 7, 8. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, no.
8 for 1.
9.
No, you gotta go back.
You gotta go under.
It's reverse.
But
It's
and I
reverse
guess
of that.
I guess
The low number went.
I guess the thing is that if you just go as a number, but if you look at the rankings,
Oh, right.
you have
yeah.
2
No,
ranked
oh,
number
yeah, you gotta go
1,
the other way.
2 ranked number
Yeah.
1
So
for
exactly the same.
Gordon Ezra Duty,
Yeah.
2 ranked for Otnot, and 1 for Vandenberg. The question is that how do we
Right.
break that into one majority of the council, one or the other. From my perspective, I can work with any of the firms, and we'll figure out how to make it happen.
Well, one of the things, one of the things I'm concerned about, Brandenburg, is that Dad, Gary, is very knowledgeable and has been doing this for many years. His son, graduate of Stetson. I don't have anything against young people, but I'm gonna tell you, my accountant daughter now works in the accounting firm. She is better than him, really. So I don't have anything against that. I'm concerned about time, really.
Well, again, with Brandenburg would have added advantage of being that this is an interim kind of deal. You have that time at least to analyze and see how they're doing. They were the only firm open for the long run, longer relationship.
But yet,
So you have those 2-3 months to assess them, see how they're doing. You know kind of where you are with the money, and then that's why I rated them the way I did.
Okay.
Ken,
Mayor,
for me,
go ahead.
Duty and the ought not, I mean, after hearing Vice Mayor O'Connor's comments about seeing, I didn't have a chance to Google today. So, you know, I can go either way here. So if that's what people want, that's what you guys want to do is go with duty, I'm okay with that.
Okay, so would you like to change your ranking then?
No, well, you were asking if a couple of the councils are willing to, you know, waiver here because we're kind of in a tie.
Right.
So
If you want
That's
to
my
change your ranking, then this would be the time to do it if you're inclined to do so.
yeah, that's fine.
All right, so you're ranking
Change it to duty number one.
number one, ought not number 2.
Yeah. Yes.
That's the will of the council, then I will go bring the firms in and we can announce that and move forward from there. Are we good? Is there any other discussion? I'll go.
Just get my traffic light time fixed. I know you guys-
I waited the other night. Get out of here.
I took a video.
Well, probably taking a nap out there.
You can have the light over here, it's similar one further down. The left turn actually activated, so you come from similar further north, sitting there for a light to turn off that nobody else can use because it goes in the field.
Exactly.
So it's.
You're 100% correct. No, I was the second car team, and I actually took video of it. Or I could even take my foot off the brake, lights turn yellow already.
Oh, really?
So everybody behind me, that's that.
I don't understand why they're not contact.
You can take the ranking down.
Hello. Everyone's back. First, I'd like to thank you all for coming to do your presentation this evening and offer your services to the city of Westlake. And after our discussion, looks like the will of the council is to pick Warren Chernoff, Judy, and Ezra as our interim city attorney. Again, I'd like to thank you all for coming, and really other.
I just want to thank everybody for their time. Very, very, very strong proposals here, and thank you very much. I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, it's great to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Good luck on your future and congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm shaking hands.
Take care.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving forward, we'll start with,
We will select duty, Mr. Horowitz, providing that we could work on that hour.
yes.
That's,
We have decided for you. that, and I hope you agree that, the hourly rate at $250, the same as the other two attorneys. If that's all right with you.
Well said.
And the half time for travel.
for the record, you were the only one who was charging for travel.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just so you know that.
So,
But
You're
that doesn't,
coming down.
but that doesn't stop you from working for the other guys and not charging me. It works fine.
So if we could squeeze you there too.
you're just gonna have to step on the gas a little harder to get here because we're not gonna take much longer time.
Understood.
So, thank you for, your consideration on the hourly rate. And here on out, I think that,
I will, so the motion should be for the city manager into a agreement with Goran Cheroff and Duty Ezra PA for interim legal services for the city at a rate of $250 an hour.
I'll go ahead and make that motion. I did have one more question for Mr. Horowitz, please. If given the opportunity, would you assist us in the RFQ process for our long-term city attorney?
Yeah, the answer is yes. If we had intended to apply for that position, we would not do that candidly, just given the potential conflict with drafting or assisting in drafting that document. But if it's, as I said, it's not our intention to take that step, so we'd be happy to assist in that process.
Wanted to know if it was an option.
It is not, yes. The answer is yes.
Thank you very much. Good question.
There's a motion,
Guys, do you want to repeat that motion again, just so I get it right?
motion to authorize the city manager to enter an agreement with Goran Cheroff Duty and Ezra PA for interim legal services for the city of Westlake at a rate of $250 an hour.
I make a motion to authorize the city manager to enter in a interim agreement with Goran Chernoff Duty and Ezra at $250 a month for legal services for the city of Westlake.
Second.
I have a motion for the city manager authorized to enter into an agreement for interim legal services with Goran Cheroff Duty and Ezra PA with the city of Westlake at $250 an hour. Motion by Vice Mayor O'Connor, second by Council Paul. Roll call. Councilwoman Crump,
Yes.
Councilman Paul,
Yes.
Vice Mayor O'Connor,
Yes.
Mayor Manning,
yes.
Councilwoman Long Robinson,
Yes.
motion carries. Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Horowitz. Thank you very much for your time. It's a pleasure. Making your way up, all the way up here.
Look forward to doing it again.
Right.
Make sure you do some business on the way back.
And we have public comment.
And I have something as well.
Would you like to do that before the public
Yes.
comment?
What I'd like at this point in time for mayor and council is, as we go forward with the RFQ, there's a couple options of how to do it. We can do it, shall we say, in-house, draft it with staff input, your input, using the interim attorney and go out on the street and then cycle through and call it down and bring in a couple other individuals, like other city managers and stuff to sit on it as a committee to whittle it down to the top 3 or 4. Or we have an option to do a third party that specializes in recruiting attorneys, et cetera, for cities. Just kind of want to get a sense. You don't have to give me an answer tonight, but just give me an idea of where you might lean. We can talk about it on the 26th as to where you think you might go, but just think about the different ways of doing it. Going out to a third party might be more transparent that, here's a third party that's doing it, they're handling it. My understanding of that process is that third party would interview each of the council members as to what you're looking for in a city attorney as they're developing the RFQ and putting it out on the street, et cetera. So those are the kinds of things that to think about. We'll circle back to it again. We have some time, but I don't want to go too long without getting that process started.
I already know where I want to go.
For me, it comes down to cost, so I don't want to spend a fortune on paying some third party to find us an attorney, but.
I like this process that we went through tonight. I really love this process, to be honest with you. I think that the city council should be totally involved in hiring the city attorney. It's very important that we do that, I feel. And I like the input that the council gives and questions and where we should go. So it's a decision by the council. So
And that's fine. And in doing that, what we'll do is we'll set up some workshops to get your input on what you're looking for and stuff, so that as we're drafting and crafting the RFQ, we make sure that we get your desires as a council, as a majority of council, outlined in that RFQ.
Well, and of course, Mr. Horowitz has always already said that he would be willing to be
Right.
involved in that. I
Right.
think that would be, I think that would be the best route. And workshopping it is perfect.
Okay.
Exactly the way I prefer to do with some knowledgeable, some knowledge on the other side of the table to help us.
Very good. Thank you. That helps me get direction. Now I know which folder to pick up and keep moving with.
Public comment.
Mayor, I received no public comment cards prior to the meeting. However, I will give the virtual audience a moment to raise their virtual hand or unmute their device, stating their name and address. If you are a caller that has been muted, you may press *6. To speak, please state your name and address. If you wish to make a comment, raise your virtual hand or unmute your device by pressing *6. State your name and address. Mayor, I see no virtual hands.
Thank you. We will adjourn at 8:32.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, council.
Thank you,
Good night.
everybody.